everyone, I'm Steve Jones from Newsmag Renfrew. I have to admit that I've never heard of this guy before this past weekend, and I think that's probably because I don't follow Major League Baseball as much as I used to back when I was younger. However, it's unusual that a talented young man such as this, such as the young man I'm going to be talking about today, comes upon the professional baseball scene and really shows a multi-tool package, almost a complete tool package that really I haven't seen in a long time. Just such a complete player and almost a dominant player at so many different aspects of the game. So I'm talking about a gentleman by the name of Elly De La Cruz of the Cincinnati Reds. Elly is a product of the Dominican Republic, that baseball factory that exists on that island. But he's the latest phenom to come out of that baseball hothouse. Elly's an interesting case. He's 6'5", 200 pounds, switch hitting shortstop. He's got a cannon for an arm coming across the infield. Sometimes those throws across the infield are reaching almost 100 miles per hour. That's almost like a hardball flame-throwing pitcher, except the pitcher is throwing off a mound, and Elly is throwing off just the basic infield. But he can really bring it when it comes to getting that ball over to first base. He is, I mentioned, a switch hitter. He hits for average. He hits for power. He is considered to be the fastest player in the major leagues. This guy's only 21 years old. He's been only in the major leagues since the beginning of June when he got called up from the minors to replace another player off the Reds roster. So, I mean, what can you say about this guy other than what we don't have to speculate. The guy's been in the league for 30 games since June the 3rd, I think. And right now he has 126 at-bats. And in those 126 at-bats, he's got 41 hits. He's scored 28 runs in that time. He has 4 homers, 16 RBIs, 16 stolen bases. He's taken 8 walks in that time. Now, mind you, he's got 39 strikeouts, so he's got a swing and miss component to him. But my goodness, swinging and missing is one thing, but when he does make contact or when he does work the count for a walk and gets onto base, this guy is nothing short of electric. In fact, he's virtually unstoppable. And he came to my attention for something that happened over the course of the weekend on Saturday when he did something fairly dramatic there that I'll be getting to in just a minute. If you take his numbers over 30 games and you extrapolate those over a full Major League schedule, so if you extrapolate the 30 games into 180 games, how many games do they play in baseball? 182? 162? I don't know. I extrapolated over 180 games, so that might be 20 more games than the season has. I believe it's 162 games, so I feel kind of stupid here because I did my math based on 180. But when you extrapolate over 180, just let's use that for the sake of argument, then the numbers that we have right now turn into a full season of 24 homers, 96 RBIs, 246 hits, 48 bases on balls, 96 stolen bases. So if you reduce that by 20 games, you've still got some really good numbers. You probably have somewhere in the area of 18 to 20 homers, maybe 80 to 85 RBIs, and in the stolen base category, maybe anywhere from 75 to 80 stolen bases. So despite the error in mathematics or the error in knowledge and how long the Major League Baseball season is, I think you're looking at a guy who can seriously put up MVP numbers, and this is his rookie season, and he didn't even start the season on the big league roster. He started it in the minors, and he came up as a replacement for, as I said, another player on the Reds who went on the injury list. So we've got ourselves a fairly accomplished player here, even in his very brief beginning stages of his career. I honestly don't think this guy's going back to the minors whenever that player returns from injury. So What we need to talk about here, what really got my attention for De La Cruz is the fact that on the weekend, on Saturday, he stole 3 bases in a game against the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, if you are following baseball, you'll see that Cincinnati was playing sort of kind of so-so. I think they were a few games under 500, then they called him up, and now all of a sudden they're 10 or 15 games over 500. They've charged right up the standings, and now they're in first place in the Central Division of the American League. They were chasing Milwaukee, and now I think they're a game or 2 ahead of Milwaukee. So this game, where he stole these 3 bases, was a critical matchup between the Brewers and the Reds in Milwaukee. When I mentioned that he scored 3 bases in that game, as noteworthy as that sounds, it's important to understand that not only did he steal 3 bases in a game, but he stole 3 bases in the same inning. In fact, he stole 3 bases in the same at-bat. 2 pitches went to the plate, and in that time, De La Cruz, who singled to get on to first in the first place, stole second, then he promptly stole third, then he promptly stole home. The game, the Reds were down a run when all this was happening, and by the time De La Cruz had made his efforts on the field, on the base paths, the game was tied at 6-6. On here, so you can see Peguero getting ready, he deals to the plate, and boom, there goes De La Cruz, and he's into second with a stolen base. Now, you know, you can say what you want about that throw from the catcher. I mean, the catcher didn't even really have a chance to throw from his he didn't get out of his crouch, he threw from his knees, and that's a pretty good throw. 1 hopper to the first base side. You're not going to get a better throw from a catcher. That is Wilson Contreras, by the way. And so that was the pitch. De La Cruz is on second. He sort of looks around, fixes his hair, takes his helmet off, kind of looks, sees what's going on, and then he notices that the third baseman, that would be Brian Anderson, is not on the bag at third. So here we go again. Ba-ding! And he just takes it standing up. There's no throw. Contreras has to eat the ball. And again, you've got De La Cruz looking around, fixing his hair, and then he notices that, oh my goodness, Peguero isn't even looking at him. And so he just takes home, and it's almost like an inside the park home run, except it wasn't an inside the park home run. It was just a series of a single and 3 stolen bases, and there you have it. I mean, this guy just basically stole 3 bases on a pitcher. Now, there's things happening here, of course. You've got well, first of all, the steal of second, that's just a regular Major League Baseball play. So, I mean, he got off to a good lead. You have to understand they changed the rules with respect to pitchers and with respect to keeping guys honest and getting too much of a lead at first base. With the new rules, the pitcher has 15 seconds to get the ball to the plate, okay? Because they're trying to speed up the game because the games were too long. And so that's one of the new rules. So as part of that new rule, the pitcher can only, this is the technical language of the rules, can only disengage twice from the plate. An example of a disengagement is to step off the rubber, okay? So that's a disengagement. And another example of a disengagement is throwing over to first base to keep the runner in check, to keep the runner close to the bag so he doesn't get too much of a lead. You can only do that twice. There's only 2 disengagements allowed per at-bat. And so, say for the sake of argument that Peguero, the pitcher, didn't step off the mound, and I don't know if he made any efforts to keep De La Cruz close at first, but I will tell you that had he made an effort to keep him close, to keep him honest, that he only gets 2 cracks at that, okay? So if he throws over to first, that counts as 1 disengagement, and if he were to throw over to first a second time, that would be the 2nd disengagement. If he were to do it a 3rd time, he would be not awarded, but he would be hit with a balk, and the runner would advance to second base, no problem. The only way that there's not a balk on a 3rd attempt to throw over to first is if you get the guy. If you get the guy and you tag him out, well then it's okay. That 3rd disengagement is okay. But if you throw over there a 3rd time and you don't get him, then it's an automatic balk. The runner advances. It's as good as a stolen base, except he doesn't have to motor down there as fast as he would have if he had stolen the base in the first place. So on that first one, like I said, it's just a traditional thing. He took his lead. Peguero deals to the plate. De La Cruz is fast. There's no denying that. I mean, I'm sure the Brewers have scouting reports on this guy. Apparently De La Cruz had stolen bases in the previous 4, maybe 5 games coming up to this one. So he's a known entity. They know that he's got speed. They know that he steals bases. So I mean, they're going to try and defend him as best they can. But with the way that rule goes, it's almost impossible to defend against a guy like this. It's just a nightmare when this guy gets on base. And so that nightmare came to life, and he stole second. I have to give the catcher William Contreras some credit there. I mean, the pitch wasn't in the greatest location for him to spring out of his crouch and make a throw. So kudos to him. He's on his knees. He makes the throw, the best throw that he can. It's not a bad one. It's a one bouncer right to the first base side of second base. That's ideal for making a tag, so an infielder just has to get over there, take the ball. The ball's going to be right in his glove, and then he applies the tag. The only problem is De La Cruz was there like 15 minutes before the ball arrived. An exaggeration, of course, but still, De La Cruz had no problem. He went in on a head-first slide, looked very dramatic, but he had the bag taken. Absolutely no problem. So that's one thing, though. And I feel really bad for Contreras here. Not so much for Peguero, because he just seems to not be understanding what's going on in his life at the moment. But for Contreras, he sees everything that's happening right in front of him, because of course he's the catcher and he's got the entire field of play in front of him. So best seat in the house, if you will. Brian Anderson, the third baseman for the Brewers. Now, I would have to think that this is because the infield coach or the defensive coach had shifted the infield. And I honestly, it's not like I'm the smartest guy in the whole world when it comes to baseball, but holy smokes. Like, Anderson was at least 40 feet off the bag at third. He left the bag absolutely defenseless. There's nobody there to make a tag if De La Cruz or anybody else wanted to make a move on it. And so De La Cruz, after he takes second, he bounces up, he does his little whatever he does there, and takes his helmet off and readjusts his hair and his dreadlocks and all that kind of stuff. Does a couple of these, and he puts the helmet back on, and he looks around. He's looking at how the infield is. He's looking at where the outfield is situated, and he notices that Anderson's not on the bag. And so the very next pitch to the plate, he takes off for third, and there's nobody there. So I mean, he takes it literally uncontested, and of course Contreras can do nothing about it. He has to eat the ball because he can't throw it, or he'd be throwing it into left field. And of course, De La Cruz would come along to score. So he does the only thing, Contreras does the only thing that he can do, and he bites down hard and he doesn't throw. So now we've got De La Cruz on third base, and predictably he's in third base. Things are good. Nods at the third base coach. Looks around, fixes the hair, does the helmet thing, all that kind of stuff, and then he notices that Peguero isn't paying attention to him. Peguero had received the ball from Contreras just in front of the mound. He turned around. He's probably disgusted with what's going on in the first place. Probably not the happiest guy in the field. And he walks back to the mound, turns his back on De La Cruz, and De La Cruz makes a little bit of a little move, and then another little move towards home plate, and then he goes. And by the time Peguero knows what's going on, he makes a feeble throw to the plate, and De La Cruz is scored. So, this guy's pretty impressive. He got called up on June 3rd. The very next day, he hit his first home run. Very soon after that, against the Atlanta Braves, he hit for the cycle. So if you're not a big baseball fan, that means he picked himself up a single, a double, a triple, and a home run, all in the same game. I don't think anybody's done that since 1972. Cesar Cedeno would be the fellow 1972 to hit for a cycle as a rookie. And of course, now De La Cruz has 16 stolen bases on the season. He's just been playing for 30 games, so essentially that's a stolen base every 2 games, if you want to look at it that way. So just an amazing, phenomenal young talent that has come into the league here. And I may not have heard of him before, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to be hearing plenty about this guy again as we move into the future. For Newsbag Read Through, I'm Steve Jones.